You know, when you have a show about gratitude, you've got to be grateful for your sponsors. And in our life of gratitude, you know, we all have guides. Somebody that guided us through our lives, that made us appreciate those things that we have. And that's why I'm so delighted and so grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Life Guides is a peer-to-peer community that helps people navigate through their day-to-day stressors by providing a place of empathy, listening, wisdom, and support with a guide who has walked in your shoes, experiencing the same challenge or life experience as you. A true life guide. And because you're listening to our gratitude podcast, if you go to their website, lifeguides.com/schedule a demo and add the code HEALTHY2021. The code is HEALTHY2021 in the free text box. You'll get 2 months of their services for free. 2 months for free. So sign up, show your team you care, get a life guide. Be grateful for those guides in your life, as I am grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Hey, welcome to Leading with Gratitude Live. I'm your host, Chester Elton, the apostle of appreciation. I'm coming to you live and in color from the Gratitude Viral Epicenter of the Universe, Summit, New Jersey. We're delighted to have you join us. We say, give us 30 minutes and we'll give you 30 minutes of great, data, great information, great inspiration, and a roadmap to build your own personal, life of gratitude at work and at home. We're broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook and our great friends at LinkedIn. We're also dual streaming on Marshall Goldsmith's channel. So between our followers, we're just under 2 million people, and we're delighted to have you join us. We love our gratitude community, so we welcome you in. Well, I got to tell you, we have a really interesting guest today, and I want to tell you a little bit about her. She's my new friend, Anne Grady. Let me read a little bit of her bio, and I know you're going to be as impressed and as inspired as I have been in just getting to know her for the last day or so. Anne Grady is an internationally recognized speaker and author who shares humor, humility, refreshing honesty, and practical strategies that can be applied both personally and professionally to improve relationships, navigate change, and triumph over adversity. Anne is a 2-time TEDx speaker, and her work has been featured in the Harvard Business Review, Entrepreneur and Inc. magazines, CNN, ESPN, and Fox Business. She has established herself as a leading expert on resilience and the science behind it. In her newest book, which we'll talk about today, Mind Over Moment, Harness the Power of Resilience, and delivers a collection of actionable, practical, and timely takeaways for the challenging world that we find ourselves in today. One of the most impactful takeaways from your new book is that resilience is a skill that can be learned, practiced, and honed. I love this quote. So many of us feel that we aren't equipped to handle challenging situations. However, that couldn't be further from the truth. Anyone can learn and become resilient and develop the skills needed to not only get through difficult situations, but to get stronger because of them. She leads you through how to break out of reactivity, strengthen resilience and emotional intelligence, and enhance relationships. The book is broken out into 3 parts. We're going to talk about it today. It's a wonderful book. It's called Mind Over Moment. These are skills we need, especially today. Please help welcome to the show my new friend, Anne Grady. Anne, welcome.
Hello. I am so grateful to get to be with you today.
I love that. Leading with gratitude, you should always start with gratitude. Well done.
Gratitude.
Hey, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions that we've talked about. And I want, the folks that are tuning in, let us know where you're from. And if you got any questions about resilience or how you've, dealt with it, we're going to go to our question command center during the show with the lovely and talented Christy Lawrence. We bring her in and wave to the crowd there, Christy. She's the straw that stirs the drink on this show. And we've already got Lydia from Nigeria, Camilla from Brazil, Adil from Ethiopia. We have a really international crowd here. So welcome to our gratitude community. We're delighted to have you. So let me start things off here. As you and I were getting to know each other, you told me about your personal story and your journey to resilience. And it started with your son, Evan. And you tell it so well. Can you share with us how you came around this idea that, look, no matter how bad it is, you can fight through it because you've done it, right?
So I'll give you the condensed version. I knew something was wrong when Evan was born. He just was incredibly cranky and irritable. And at the age of 3, he tried to kill me with a pair of scissors. By the time he was 4 years old, he was on his first antipsychotic. By the time he was 7, he was hospitalized in the pediatric psych unit in Dallas, and I lived at the Ronald McDonald House. After his second hospitalization, I was diagnosed with a tumor in my salivary gland that resulted in facial paralysis, a scratched cornea, eye surgery, 6 weeks of radiation, but not before a fall down the stairs, breaking my foot in 4 places in the process. And I have built my resilience muscle out of necessity. But the nice thing is anybody can build the resilience muscle. I always thought it was a genetic gift. It was like skinny thighs. You either have it or you don't. But what I've come to appreciate is that resilience is nothing more than a set of skills and habits that you can cultivate and practice. And whether we like it or not, life gives us plenty of chances to practice, as we see right now. Evan is an amazing kiddo, but you take some serious mental illness, add autism and learning challenges and cognitive delays, and it's just this recipe for a perfect neurological storm. You say up, he says down. You say right, he says left. You say take a shower, he says I'm going to kill you, and punches a hole in the sheetrock. But the truth is, everybody has an Evan, right? Everybody has something in their life that pushes them past what they think they're capable of handling. But everybody who's listening or watching right now is still standing or sitting, right? You've survived everything that's happened to you so far. So by your very nature, you're already resilient.
You were sharing that with me the other day. And I remember thinking, so here you are, you're falling down the stairs, you have a tumor, a scratched cornea, you've got all these complications with the kid. At the end of the day, did you kind of sit back and just go, well, other than that, things are going great? I mean, where do you find that well of reserve that says, even though I'm here, I can power through? How did you find that?
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how is the play? So what's interesting is you don't feel that when you're in it, right? It wasn't like I was going through it going, I am strong, I am resilient. It's one of those things where you're in the middle of the difficulty and you can't see a way out. But you're able to look back with perspective and grow from it. It's called post-traumatic growth. Around the time that I dealt with my facial tumor and all of those things, I realized I had the tough reality of knowing that Evan is Evan, right? He's amazing, but he's going to be like this for the rest of his life. And I think it's giving yourself permission to go through that grief cycle regularly. We don't just one and done, but when you practice resilience, one of the best things you can do for your brain, literally change the neural structure and function of your brain, is to proactively cultivate positive emotions like gratitude, like humor, optimism, social connection, all of those great things that we know fuel us. And so while you don't lose sight of the challenge, you certainly offset it and teach your brain intentionally to look for the good things, because a collection of those is what makes a beautiful life. That's what those moments are.
I love that, collecting those good memories and reprogramming your brain. So now Evan is in his late teens, if I'm not mistaken. How's he doing now?
Evan is 17. He will be 18 in April. And we have good days and we have not so good days. We have good hours and not so good hours. A couple of years ago, we made a gut-wrenching decision. We placed him at a therapeutic boarding school in Idaho. We just couldn't keep him safe or keep us safe or give him the 24/7 therapy that he needed. And so we're all healing, right? But it's a long process. The average person experiences 5 to 6 traumas in a lifetime. I've always been an overachiever. So I'm trying to get it all out of the way now, so the back half is smooth sailing.
One of the things that I love about you, and you mentioned it earlier, is that, it reminds me of what my dad used to say: it's better to laugh than cry, right? So you might as well laugh. You're bringing the humor into these really tough situations. It does help, doesn't it?
Well, so here's what's counterintuitive, though. I for a long time, most people don't like unpleasant emotions. like anxiety, like uncertainty, like fear, like stress. And so we try to either numb them or push them away. And you hear in our culture, turn that frown upside down, or you have so much to be grateful for, don't be sad. But the truth of the matter is every emotion serves a purpose. They're not facts. Your thoughts are not facts. They're information. And even the unpleasant emotions serve a purpose. So while it may seem counterintuitive, when you try to numb them and not feel them, you actually significantly increase how long they last, the duration, and the intensity with which you feel them. So one of the things I have had to learn, and trying to save you guys years and years of therapy, is that when you feel any of those uncomfortable emotions, sit in them. You don't have to marinate in it, right? But give yourself a little time to sit in that, because your brain is in protection mode and it can't just flip to positive. Now, your brain can go from negative to neutral. So I used to tell myself the story in my head of how unfair it was, and why did my friends have kids that were healthy, and what's wrong with me and my son. And those might be true, but they don't serve you. So it's starting to challenge that story. What else could be true? Well, I'm stronger as a result. What else could be true? Well, now I can donate lots and lots of book proceeds to the National Alliance on Mental Illness. What else could be true? So I think it's not about ignoring the negative or unpleasant. It's about sitting in it, giving yourself permission to feel it, knowing that it's going to pass. Happiness is not a constant state or a personality trait. It's a skill. And we're not meant to be happy every single moment. We've got this $11 billion happiness industry that Western culture has kind of spread throughout the world. And so when you don't feel happy, you're like, what's wrong with me? I should be happy. I have so much to be grateful for. But the truth is, all of those emotions serve a purpose. And so if you can learn to sit with them and experience them, then it's the fastest path through them.
Yeah, one of the quotes I love from your work is you say, life is made up of moments. Make those moments count. Isn't it hard just to live moment to moment? I mean, don't you have to take a longer view? Is that one that you talk about? It's a muscle that you have to develop. Is learning to live moment to moment, is that a muscle that you have to develop? Because I hear what you're saying. You get sad and you embrace it for a moment, I guess. And then you move on. Isn't it hard for most people to live just moment to moment?
It is. In fact, we spend, in the latest research, it was 2010 by Harvard, that we spend almost half of our time thinking about something other than what we're doing. I mean, everyone who's listening to this has thought about something other than what we're talking about, because that's how we're wired. I've thought about other things. But the ability to control your attention, to bring your brain back to the moment, that is a skill, it is a muscle, but it actually changes the structure and function of your brain. So our brain views uncertainty as a threat. And right now there is no shortage of that. And so all of your neurological and psychological energy is going to face that threat. So bringing yourself back is nothing more than brain training. It's training your brain to direct your attention to the moment rather than ruminating on the past, worrying about the future. And nobody does it flawlessly. I don't do it flawlessly. That's why I always call resilience a practice.
Excellent. So let's get into your book. And by the way, I know that there are a lot of people out there thinking about how they may be in a tough spot and how they want to be more resilient. So hold up the copies of your book, available on Amazon. It's not just a book, it's also a workbook. Love the color. My favorite moment. Yeah. I love the time wheels. It's a living moment to moment. So your book is divided into 3 parts. You've got mindset, tools, and reset. So let's start with number 1. Talk to us about mindset, and does it go in that order? Is mindset first?
Yeah, so it's mindset, skill set, and reset. So your mindset is the foundation. It's like your toolbox. It's the place where resilience is built. The skill set are the literal skills and tools and strategies that you can apply. And the reset is about resetting your nervous system, your priorities, and your perspective. So it does start with mindset. Okay, so give us some insight into mindset. And how is that the first step
to becoming more resilient? What has to happen in my mindset?
So our beliefs are so powerful that they drive our neurochemistry and our behavior. We know this from decades of research, like the stress study where they tracked 30,000 people and found that for people who had high levels of stress but thought it was bad for them, had a 43% increased risk of dying prematurely, whereas the people who had high levels of stress and thought it was nothing more than a physiological reaction, those people had a 0% increased risk of dying prematurely. Like your brain literally does the same thing if you win the lottery or if you feel stress. The only difference is the story that we tell ourselves about it. So the mindset is a few things. One, it's learning about our negativity bias, our propensity to focus on what's wrong. So if you're starting your morning looking at your phone, your email, social media, or the news, you've already hijacked yourself emotionally for the rest of the day. But the mindset is understanding your habits and the way habits are formed and which ones serve you and which ones might be sabotaging your resilience. And it's the story you're telling yourself about your experiences, your explanatory style, because that often dictates the way you come out of adversity more than the adversity itself.
You know, isn't that interesting? The story that you tell changes your mindset. You know, it reminds me of the old Buddhist story. You know, Buddha had all these great, stories that he would tell to make a point. He talks about the farmer, and there was torrential downpour. And they said, well, that's bad news for your crops. And he says, good news, bad news, who knows? I guess it's a matter of perspective, right? And so what you're saying is for that
farmer, there was something that came up where it ended up being good news. So it's really all in the way we interpret the things that are happening to us. It's about, I think a lot of times we default to victim mode, right? We think we're supposed to be happy, and when we're not, we feel like we're doing something wrong. But the truth of the matter is we're not supposed to be happy all the time, right? There's no happily ever after. I start the book with happily ever after. We have this idea of what our life should look like. 2.5 kids, 2 dogs, picket fence, suburban neighborhood, whatever your definition is. And then we spend so much energy being frustrated that we don't have exactly what we want in a way that we miss out on all the incredible moments in our life that will get us there.
That's such a healthy perspective, and yet it's hard to do, isn't it? It's hard to get people there. And is it because we've got this smartphone next to us that just, washes over us every day with bad news? Is that the key, is to start your day right? Because you said something I found really interesting. You said, if you start with your news feed, your social media feed, it's hijacked you for the rest of the day. So if you blow it at the beginning of the day, are you doomed, or can you recapture your positivity?
Well, most of us allow it to negatively spiral throughout the day. So if you've ever, I'm willing to bet that most of you have never woken up to an email that said, hey, you just won $1 billion. You never have to work or worry about money again, right? It's usually a meeting you have to go to that you didn't know, or a deadline you missed, or something that came up. And what ends up happening, I actually learned this from Sean Aker, who I have had the privilege to speak with many times. And, Sean calls it building a mental moat around your day, because the first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes after you wake up and before you go to sleep, we're the weakest cognitively speaking. So you can't prioritize information, put it into a greater context, even understand the bigger meaning. And when you're waking up, our phone is the world's smallest slot machine. And we say we keep it next to our bed because it's our alarm clock, but they make those. So even if you have it on Do Not Disturb, your brain is still craving the dopamine hit you get from the novelty of the new things that are going to be there when you wake up. And you never turn on the news and hear happy stories first. It's challenge. And even if there's positive on social media, we compare our insides to everybody else's outside. Their family looks perfect and happy. So give yourself the gift of 30 minutes in the morning to let your brain just start. But you can turn it around at any point. You can reset. That's the third part of the book, right? Most of us just aren't aware that we have that power.
That's excellent. We got some really interesting questions. We're going to go to the Question Command Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Christy, Tell us what people are asking.
Hi, Anne. I have a question, and you touched on it a little bit and may have already briefly answered, but Jennifer Kosha in McDonough, Georgia, wants to know if you've come across this idea of perfectionism, where you just can't seem to get anything done if it's not perfect.
Yes, and it's a great question, and I'm guilty of it, right? I think a lot of high achievers, I think a lot of high performers get stuck in this place of perfection. But the truth of the matter is you're striving for something that is hurting your mental health. So when you start focusing on progress versus perfection, you give yourself permission to be okay, because the truth is different tasks require different levels of quality. You know, if you're sending an email and you're taking 30 minutes to wordsmith it and craft it and make it perfect, it might be that email requires it, but it might be that you're just getting caught up in things that you've decided are important. It's redefining what success looks like. And I think, at least in my perspective, it's redefining success as growth instead of the outcome, right? Because the perfectionism is a very fixed mindset characteristic where we compare ourselves against other people, where we judge ourselves by whether we pass or fail or whether we get a promotion or not. Whereas the growth mindset, and I talk about this in the book as well, is really focused on the effort and the learning and the progress. So it is absolutely a part of it.
Great. So we got people asking, where can they find your book? I'm guessing it's available at Amazon and fine bookstores everywhere?
It is available at Amazon. It's not in bookstores yet, but you can go to annegradygroup.com and learn all about the book there and get a video with a summary of it. You can go to Amazon. You can find it all over Amazon.
And by the way, I highly recommend you listen to Anne's TEDx talks. They really are engaging. Okay, so I knew this was going to happen. We're going to run out of time. We got two more to cover. We got skill set and we've got reset. So walk us through those and give our listeners and our viewers a couple of skills and how do they reset?
All right. So skill set, you focus on one all the time: gratitude, proactively cultivating positive emotion, self-care, right? Knowing that it's not selfish. It's a requirement for resilience. It is a skill, and it's one that we don't take seriously. When our phone is on 5%, we rush around trying to charge it. When we're on 5%, we're like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. You can't be resilient when you're exhausted. So it's taking care of you. Other skills include social connection, making sure that you're focusing on emotional intelligence, that you're building relationships, that you're helping other people. We get a helper's high, and it actually does more for our brain than when we're the one receiving the help from others. And then the reset is about priorities, perspective, and your nervous system. So we all have an autonomic nervous system, and it's broken into two components. Sympathetic is fight or flight. Parasympathetic is rest and digest. And what we know is that 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths, meaning when you take an inhale, you pooch out your belly. When you exhale, you bring it back in, and the exhale should be longer than the inhale, because the exhale is the breath that actually re-regulates your nervous system. 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths will reset your nervous system. And the reason for that is when your brain is focused on how you're breathing, it knows it's not being chased by a tiger. So you know you're safe. The reset is about a lighthouse. It's what are you swimming toward? What is it you're working toward in your life? And is what you're doing getting you closer to reaching it or not? Most of us just stay busy being busy, and we're exhausted without being as productive as we could be. It's about scheduling your priorities instead of just prioritizing your schedule, knowing that your resume and your eulogy should not be the same document. And then the basis of the book, mindfulness, which I used to think was like sitting in a full lotus eating Zen. That's not what it is at all. It's brain training. It is building that muscle to bring you back to what you have control over in this moment, because in this moment, you're safe. In this moment, you're okay. It's when we start thinking about what could happen or what did happen that we set ourselves up for failure. So all of life is about choosing your perspective, and nobody does it perfectly all the time. You have to give yourself grace, because self-compassion is a skill. You can't be compassionate to others if you're not giving yourself some grace. And right now we need it more than ever.
I love that you've got these skill sets. You could say they're tools, right, to interrupt that negativity. I'm Andeep from Canada. By the way, born in Canada, I'm Andeep. Love it when the Canadians show up. I love that he says, if one person is aware of what that person is thinking, negative emotions, that 3-second strategy, that breathing, interrupt it. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. Well, listen, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. If you wanted people to remember 3 things from our conversation, and by the way, I want to point out that, Anne's there are 2 books. There's the book, which is amazing. And then there's the workbook that I'm really guessing helps you do the reset, right? So don't just buy one with the other. And I'm willing to bet that they make great, Christmas presents, Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating, New Year's, birthdays, anniversaries. It's always an appropriate gift. So the workbook really is an important companion to the book, isn't it?
Yeah, so it came about because a special education teacher took notes and storyboarded my entire keynote in front of 4,000 educators and showed it to me at a book signing table. I have 2 other books aside from these. And it was so impressive and amazing that I created the journal almost so that she could illustrate it. But it's a way to put into practice the skills. So you asked 3 takeaways. One would be understanding your brain. We are constantly driven toward finding out what's wrong. Focus on what's right now. What is right now? Second would be that resilience is a skill, and it is not built in a spa day. It is built when stuff hits the fan and we're tired, right? So you might be in the middle of it right now, and that is okay. Sit in it, experience it, and then know that you can interrupt that cycle with deep breaths, with a walk in nature, with a hot bath, anything that resets your nervous system. And the last thing that I would go back to is this thing that has changed my life, this belief that your resume and your eulogy shouldn't be the same document. We get so caught up in success and progress. We sometimes have to change our measuring stick. Like, instead of money and title, what if your measuring stick was relationships and purpose? Or philanthropy, whatever it is, it's really redefining success to make sure that you're living your life intentionally so that you don't just end up aimlessly living your life on autopilot.
Excellent advice. Well, her book is Mind Over Moment. It comes with a workbook. You can find more about her at her website. Yes, please hold them both up. She's also an amazing virtual speaker, does virtual workshops. If you or your company needs somebody to help you be more resilient, Anne is your person. Well, listen, we ask all our guests as a closing question, where did you find your gratitude today, Anne? Where did you find it?
I found it with you. I am so grateful to be part of this. And I call them delicious moments, these moments that we can stop and savor. We normally rush past them, but I'm going to soak in this for a little bit when we're done and just really celebrate that we got the chance to get to know each other. It's a gift.
Well, you're too kind. Well, listen, we're going to say goodbye, but stick around because we're going to talk a little bit after the show. And I want to give a shout out to Christy at the Command Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Wave to the crowd. We have a quick commercial from our publisher, Harper Business. Brent, can you pull that up just really quick? The show's called Leading with Gratitude. It's based on our book. Alan Mulally, the great leader at Ford, said, I love this book. And then a not so subtle call to action. Buy me, buy me, buy me. Hey, listen, follow us on LinkedIn. We've got a wonderful gratitude journal newsletter every month. We'd love you to subscribe to that as well. Next week, I want to give you a real plug. We're heading into the holiday season. We are going to cook together with my good friend Mark Eggerding, the Eggman. He's going to teach us in 30 minutes how to make a great holiday appetizer or dessert. We haven't decided. We're going to send you the recipes. Feel free to cook with us. Come back next Thursday at 1 o'clock. Give us 30 minutes. We'll give you great information, great inspiration, and a roadmap to your own personal life of gratitude at work and at home. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We love our gratitude community. Brent Klein, who's the world's greatest online producer, does not have a camera today. But if you're looking for great production, go to methods.of/network, and Brent will take care of every virtual need you can imagine. He is wonderful. Well, listen, I'm grateful for our time together. Be safe, be happy, be grateful, be kind, and be of service. Take care. We'll see you next Thursday at 1.